Hey, it's Gerald from Lakers Fast Break. Anchor is the easiest way to make your next podcast. It's absolutely free, and their creation tools will allow you to record and edit your show right from your phone or your home computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on great podcast outlets like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started on your next podcast. Now we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos. The Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you get a chance, please give us that 5-star review. I almost feel like Subway. $5 foot long, that type of deal. You notice they brought it back. That's all I say. I'm glad that they brought it back, at least for a limited time. But anyways, if you get a chance, give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or like, support, share, whatever you can do. Follow. We just truly appreciate it here at the Lakers Fast Break. It's here. It's upon us. This weekend at hand, the NBA season will begin. The Lakers and Clippers looking really excited. Just cannot wait for it. Just so happy that the season is right around the corner. And here today to talk to me about the upcoming NBA season, his thoughts, his insight on what he thinks will be going down inside the bubble. Because if you're not in a bubble these days and you're in a sport, it's not exactly the safest thing. Just ask the Marlins. Right. But it is a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check out. I'm showing it now on Facebook Live, but you got to go ahead and check out his awesome show, Cole Sportz, plus all the other shows that he's part of. It is Cole Johnson. And Cole, I just cannot thank you enough for joining me on the show today.
Well, Gerald, I appreciate you rolling out the red carpet, and the room looks good. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was a little bit different a couple weeks ago. It looked like, as my wife would always put it, that pop culture threw up. So my daughter, who is also a pop culture freak, but also a Lakers fan, decided, you know what, Dad, I want to help you redesign it. I want you to help make it look good. And okay, I said, all right, I get the hint. So we went ahead and worked on it. So yeah, it's still a little bit of touches in process, but for the most part, yeah, I'm just trying to get things done on it. But I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. It's always good to have a woman's touch.
Yes,
always.
yes. And I, as I've already told you before, I've got some great women indeed inside the house, so I'm very blessed to have that. But I'll tell you what, my friend, it is such a great time for us sports fans, well, at least NBA fans. Baseball, we don't know where that's going right now.
Right.
But NBA is right around the corner. I know you're excited. I know I'm excited. And I just want to go ahead and touch on some things. Yes, of course, the Lakers obviously going in there. Anthony Davis, he might sit out the first game, but for the most part, he's going to be healthy going into the playoffs, I think, at right now. Hopefully, knock on wood. Yeah. But him, LeBron James, and the rest of the Lakers look really good going into this NBA bubble. But there are other teams as well. So I want to go ahead and ask you, Cole, is there anything that sticks out to you as far as the NBA bubble is concerned from these three scrimmages that they've had? Because for the most part, we're talking on Tuesday. They're most of them are completed. But your initial thoughts on these teams and some of the impressions that you have going into the NBA bubble?
Well, I mean, the scrimmages have looked exactly the way I thought it would be. It definitely looked like it was, like we were in early October again. It looked preseason-ish. So you had a feeling that the guys were still trying to feel their way, and other than practice, they haven't really played anything competitively in 4 months. So they were just feeling their way. And things seem to be fine. As far as the Lakers are concerned, I think the sky's the limit with them. They seem to be fine. The only thing they need to have happen is to have LeBron James healthy and Anthony Davis healthy. If they can have those two healthy, I think they can go a pretty long way. Beyond that, I really believe that the NBA, I think they're suffering a little bit from not, I guess you could say, sanitizing their bubble all the way. I think they're going to have some concerns there. We already had Michael Beasley contract coronavirus while in the bubble. I hope we have no more of those types of situations happening. But other than that, it actually might be good. As far as the teams are concerned, veteran teams, I think, would love this time period now because they get the chance to shoot their shot, so to speak.
Yeah.
And they now have had rest. They've never said, well, we're in the stretch drive of our season and we are coming off of a whole ton of rest. Normally their stretch drives are 5 months of regular season grind, and they have to find a couple of days of rest here and a couple of days of rest there before they gear up for the playoffs. Well, teams that may get hot, Rockets are one that I could think of. Trailblazers definitely are another team I could think of. If the shots fall, they will look pretty good. But if the iron is unkind, thank you, Tim Brandt, then they may have issues. But the most exciting thing that I've seen in the scrimmage, Ben Simmons hitting a 3. I think that's the most exciting thing I've seen in scrimmage.
Not Bol.
Oh no, not Bol. The more exciting thing about Bol was the fact he got drug tested after his 16, 10, and 6 line.
Yeah, there you go. I can agree with you on Ben Simmons, but what is your real take on Ben Simmons? I mean, obviously he tried a couple threes. He did hit one, as you said. Is he just pulling this out because of the scrimmages? Do you think he'll actually go ahead and utilize it more? He has been moved to the power forward slot in the starting lineup so they can get Shake back into the starting lineup for Philadelphia. They've put Al Horford to the bench. Do you think this is a sound move for Brett Brown? He's obviously coaching for his Philadelphia career at this point in time, but do you think that it's a reality that Ben Simmons might start dabbling with some three-pointers? I mean, because if he starts to do that, it just makes a world of possibilities even larger for the 76ers.
Yeah. How can I put this in a delicate fashion?
It's hard to when it concerns his outside shooting.
Right. But you hit the nail on the head. Brett Brown is coaching for his career. And I don't necessarily mean just his Sixers stint. I mean, he's probably coaching, if he does get released from the Sixers, the possibility of having another job on an NBA staff. You get the feeling that he's grasping at straws. He's trying to see what pieces fit. And I am of the belief that if the Sixers don't advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, and that is not a lock, then we may see a coaching change in Philly. As far as Ben Simmons is concerned, I know he has the height to be a power forward. I don't know if he has the game to be one. And yeah, I know he doesn't really shoot outside shots, and that would make him a contender to be someone to play in the low block. But if his game isn't based on physicality, and it's based on being a slasher, he's basically is a wing in a 6'10" body, then moving to power forward really wouldn't do him any good either. I get the thinking is similar to like LeBron James. He doesn't play power forward; he plays small forward, and this year he has played a little more point guard. So I get that they want to do a point forward type of thing with Ben Simmons. The issue is, and I don't think he has to hit threes, but he has to come up with a consistent 15 to 20 foot range shot. Yeah. Because teams will basically just simply invite him to shoot, and they will just block off penetration to the lane, as a team who defend him should do. So if he just develops a long range jumper, not necessarily a three, I think he would be better off, no matter which position he plays. But I think he's better suited at point guard. But I just get the feeling of being power forward for Brett Brown. I think it's a desperate move, in my opinion.
It is a move, like you said. It could be very desperate indeed, and
Mm-hmm.
you're right. You're exactly right. If he even creates an elbow jumper, just right there, 15 feet either side of the free throw line, and that's all he needs to go ahead and just get teams to notice that, hey, we need to go ahead and pick him up a little bit farther out, and that can go ahead and spread things out a little bit more as far as our offense is concerned.
Right. And that, I think that is more what the Sixers need than anything. If he can, like you say, develop an elbow jumper, develop a top of the key jumper, just something that can loosen the lane, loosen the post. Because if that were to happen, that actually would help out Joel Embiid even more by having a little less congestion in the post.
Yeah. When you have somebody that skilled and talented down low on the block, you don't want to crowd it even more. And right now, the way they play, it's making it much harder for Joel Embiid to do his thing.
Yeah, and his game is more along the lines of he needs the elbow room to do his thing. He isn't the type of big that we grew up watching. He doesn't strike me as like a Patrick Ewing type. He doesn't strike me as a Hakeem Olajuwon type, or even a Kareem, and he definitely is not a Shaq type. So physicality is not necessarily what Embiid specializes in. So when you see a player that has the ability to be, I won't say graceful, but if he has the ability to be a little more athletic, you need to have as few amount of people to draw down to him if you're the Sixers as you possibly can.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. He has some elements of Hakeem Olajuwon, but he also has some elements of power and grace as well. It's not like the total package, like he's a replica, but he has a little bit of each. I've seen his moves. He does a little bit of shake and bake and whatnot. Like you said, if he gets the space. But the problem is if they don't get the space, that could be a big issue. But if they are able to work things out, I think they're the oddball in this situation when it comes to Eastern and Western Conference, because they have enough talent to get to the at least the Eastern Conference Finals on paper. I had picked them, way back earlier in the season as far as a team that I thought would go a long way, and unfortunately, right now it doesn't look to be the case. But if they do right that ship, there's no telling what kind of mayhem they can create in the NBA playoffs.
Definitely, and they have some experience. They have a playoff series victory under their belt now, so it isn't like it wasn't like 2 years ago where they didn't quite know what type of team they had. And even though they struggled a little bit last year with that too, a little bit with identity, it was a little more, they felt more confident in their ability, and they felt a little more confident in their athleticism. And, when you have a best of 7 in any round and you have the experience factor coming into a series, that helps the team out. So the Sixers, yes, on paper, they should be an Eastern Conference finalist easily, but that's on paper. If they can gel and get hot, I believe they could make it there, because like I said, all they need is to have some sort of reliable jump shot, not necessarily a 3-pointer, but just some type of jump shot, something to not make a defense say, well, this team is nothing but penetration and post play. We could just simply clog the lane and do that all game long. Because if that's the case, the Sixers will be bounced in the first round simply because, well, teams will just be sitting and waiting for them to either penetrate or the ball to be dished into the paint.
They will go as far as Korkmaz, Harris and also Richardson will take them as far as 3-point shooting. Not Embiid, because Embiid will take his standard 3 to 5 3-point attempts there each game, because you got to go ahead and feed it to him, because that's what he likes and desires. But again, it goes back to, can they get enough additional outside shooting to go ahead and support them? So we'll wait and see.
Right.
I mean, at home they seem to have gotten it. On the road they seem to have not. So this Jekyll and Hyde team, we're going to have to wait and see what happens. So it's going to be very interesting nonetheless when it comes to the 76ers.
This is Raphael from NBADraftJunkies.com, and you are listening to the Lakers Fast Break.
Check out what's been going on with the Pop Culture Cosmos Show and the PCC Multiverse.
I see the potential for basically like another Netflix kind of paradigm shift where here comes this other major player. They have a ton of resources. Apple could change the way that entertainment is consumed.
They say it's the only time this year that you'll have stars from each brand battling each other, and we know it's not going to be the case, but they like to say that, and more power to them, I guess.
Well, it's a big first step, bringing all those superheroes together. There were definitely some parts of the movie that I really enjoyed, and then there were some parts that I thought just kind of fell short of expectation.
Part of it has to be something to do with how it's being promoted, and this is a thing where audiences do not agree with critics.
That's the Pop Culture Cosmos Show.
And the PCC Multiverse, every week on Apple Podcasts.
And over a dozen of your favorite streaming and podcasting options. But are there any more interesting teams? Because we all know about the Bucks. Loaded roster, a lot of complementary players, team that's built around Giannis, done a tremendous job.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people's pick for MVP. When it comes to any other teams out there in the Eastern Conference, they seem to be in one big bunch. And I'll talk to one person, they'll say one team. And I'll talk to another person, they'll say another team. Is there any team in the Eastern Conference that sticks out in your mind? I mean, we talked at length about the 76ers, but is there anyone else?
You almost get the feeling that if one of the three teams that I name can go on a high streak, that they could really cause problems for the Bucks. and that would, then we talked about one, the Sixers, but Celtics, the Raptors, and the Pacers, if they were to just simply catch lightning in a bottle, I just get the feeling one of those three teams could make it really hard for a team like the Bucks or a team like the Sixers, and just really make us say, "Wow, we didn't see this coming." That type of thing, because the Celtics, they had to deal with the loss of Kyrie Irving, which that was basically addition by subtraction. The Raptors had to deal with the loss of Kawhi Leonard, and shout out to Pascal Siakam. He has stepped his game up, a lot, and also Kyle Lowry has actually taken on more of the role too there in Toronto, and then the Pacers. It's like you look at this team and you say, how the heck are they doing this? It's like they're doing this with smoke and mirrors. So I thought they weren't supposed to be anywhere near contention. Yet here they are. And, the rest of the pack, I think they could be fodder for the top teams in the East. But for me, if either the Celtics, the Raptors, or the Pacers just catch on fire, I think they may give a team like the Bucks a lot of problems.
Pacers, though, have to have a healthy Sabonis. And right now with his plantar fasciitis,
100%.
That's a big key. If he's not going to be able to make it, if they sit him down, even with a healthy Oladipo, who's now deciding to play, $3 million might have changed his mind. That Sabonis still is such a key factor. I've heard people, he was an all-star, but he's really not an all-star. Or you know what? He's a very good player, and he's a great contributor on that team. And they're a team that does not have a superstar. Right. They're a team that is going to get after you because they have a collection of very good players. And if one piece is missing, especially as big as him, then you're going to have issues. Miles Turner can't make up for it. Victor Oladipo can't make up for it. It's something that the Pacers, if they have everybody together, like you said, could surprise people. But if not, then they could be, like you said, early fodder as well. So I will monitor that situation going on with Sabonis because I think he is a very good player and a very key part of that. Your other choices are outstanding as well. I mean, there are teams that could surprise the Bucks in the Eastern Conference, and I agree with you. I don't think it's a done deal that the Bucks are going to go all the way.
Yeah, as much as I would like to say that, and the Bucks have had an impressive season, and as much as I like to say, well, the East is theirs, and we all should fear the deer, and it's a done deal. It's not. To me, last year when the Bucks played the Celtics, if the Celtics had a little more confidence in themselves as a team, I think they could have given the Bucks a little more than what they offered, because they dominated them in game one, but then it was as if either they believed their own press clippings or they just ran out of gas or they played over their heads in game one, because games 2 through 5, that was all Milwaukee. So I want to see if they learn from that experience last year going into this year. And that will be interesting to me.
I'll tell you what.
That would be.
I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. Once again, I'm speaking to Cole Johnson. You got to check out, as I'm showing everybody on Facebook Live, his awesome podcast, Cole Sportz. You see right there, 4.9 rating right there. You can't get much better than that. It's available now on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts. Cole Sportz, he has a lot of other things as well, to talk about when, I'm going to give him the floor in just a sec here. But first, I want to go ahead and talk about the Western Conference before we head on out. And that is, I know the LA teams, they get all the pub, they get all the buzz, LA, all that. But I want to hear your thoughts as someone who has a deep insight and knowledge from what I'm able to listen to on your shows and your other guest appearances that have been out there. You've had a great insight into what's going on in the NBA and also your thoughts on the Western Conference. So I want to hear your thoughts on how the West might shape out, because there's a lot of other great teams in the conference besides just in LA.
Yeah, and if you were to be basically an LA-based fan and you're just all about the Lakers or all about the Clippers, you probably would think, okay, well, you don't really have to deal with any other team. No, the West is coming for you. I mean, just think about the possible first-round opponent for the Lakers and the Trailblazers. Now, this is a team that was in the Western Conference Finals last year, and you're dealing with a team where you have their stalwart point guard in Damian Lillard, where if he catches on fire, I don't care what seed you are, you're going to have problems stopping him. And if he and CJ McCollum catch fire at the same time, wow. And that's just a possible 8th seed. We're not even talking about teams like the Rockets, who they have 2 ball-dominant point guards in Westbrook and Harden, who, if they are hot and they can catch on fire, they can do damage. Not talking about the Jazz, who this team, when you think that, well, they're boring and they really won't make any difference in figuring out who's going to be the powers in the West. No, they just simply plot away and they plot away and they plot away and they have this dogmatic, we're going to go after you and get after you style, almost reminiscent to one of their former head coaches in
Jerry Sloan.
And Jerry Sloan, couldn't even think of his first name. It sort of is that type of workman-like style. They do have their main star in Donovan Mitchell, and they have they have a defensive stalwart guy in Rudy Gobert, but it's more along the lines of they just are a workman-like blue-collar type team, and they just find ways to win. And then there's the Nuggets. This team, they were an overtime away from being in the Western Conference Finals last year. And all they've done is just push the Lakers and the Clippers to play basically beyond themselves just so they can stay ahead of them. And, and we could talk about other young players that's coming up. Ja Morant, who, well, he basically is having the Grizzlies by themselves, knocking on the door to a playoff spot himself. You can talk about the Mavericks, who they're surprising teams, and Luka Doncic, who's reminding people of Larry Bird in terms of how he plays. But Nikola Jokic, oh my gosh. I cannot rave enough about this guy. It's as if the game comes to him so fluidly and easily. He reminds me basically of, and we talked about Sabonis. The Joker reminds me of his father, Arvydas Sabonis, where it looked like he wasn't moving, but he just had these quick, sudden moves where he used body control so effortlessly and so well. And it was like, if he got anywhere in or near the paint, that would be his domain, and there was nothing you could do to stop it. The only difference is Arvydas didn't bring his long-range jumping ability in the NBA, but he had it when he was a part of the Soviet team, but we didn't get a chance to see it.
Just what I was going to say. Just because, that's the one, I don't want to say it's a crime or anything like that, but it's just so sad that we as NBA fans didn't get to see a young Arvydas Sabonis.
Yeah, we would have been treated to an absolute elite ball player. Nikola reminds me of him. That's the vibe I get with him whenever I see him play. It's like, gosh, he just knows the game so well. And the rest of the Nuggets, they're talented. They're really talented. We may not know a lot about them in terms of a squad, but I could see a really interesting second round matchup between the Nuggets and the Clippers. I could see that, and I would enjoy that 7-game series there.
That'd be a slugfest, that's for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, Cole, got some great insight and some great thoughts on what's going on with the NBA's bubble coming up this week and all the platform and everything that's going on. I want to hear your thoughts finally on who may come out of the West, who may come out of the East, and who ultimately, as of now, although we'll check up on you, as the playoffs continue, we'll go ahead and check and see. Our opinions might differ, because as you know, anything can happen in the NBA playoffs. But who might ultimately come out on top right now, heading into the bubble?
Okay. Well, I can say in the Western Conference Finals, if you're in LA, I really do believe that y'all will be excited because we're going to see a Lakers-Clippers conference final. I really do believe that. The Eastern Conference Final, I see that being the Bucks. It might be a repeat. Bucks, Raptors. Yeah, I really see that. But I think the teams are going to come out and meet each other in the finals. In the East, I see it being the Bucks. I'm going to disappoint you here, Gerald. In the West, I see it being the Clippers.
It wouldn't be the first guest to say that, so don't worry.
And the only reason why I say Clippers is that doggone bench. It's like, where does it end? I keep thinking that you can beat this team because, well, other than Kawhi and dinged up Paul George, they probably can't really impress you all that much with the starters. But they have a deep bench, and it just amazes me. It amazes me. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers come out the West, because whenever LeBron James has the opportunity to be in the playoffs, all bets are off. And he has probably the best player, in my opinion, that he's ever played with on a team in his 17-year career as his when you say sidekick, as his number 1A player.
Well, that's a good assessment. I'm still picking the Lakers just because of those two very things you said, LeBron James and AD in a matchup, in a playoff format, when the rotations shrink, and it's all about matchups. I think they're the hardest matchup out there. But again, saying the Clippers with their deep bench, like you said, with Lou Will, with also Montrezl Harrell, with so many other options and weapons that they can have coming off the bench, I get that, and I understand it. And like I said, you're not simply the first person to say that. In fact, there's been several individuals that have come on the show to say that. who are just NBA fans as a whole or Clipper fans or either which way, it doesn't matter. So it's definitely something that you got to be aware of. You got to be aware of the Clippers they're there as a team that can go all the way. But you now have the Clippers and the Bucks in the NBA Finals. Who do you think is the better of the two coming out on top this year?
I think the Clippers would have an edge considering that Kawhi has a ring, and of course their coach too, Doc Rivers. He also has a ring as a coach. I would lean to the Clippers, but I'm a huge Giannis Antetokounmpo fan, and I really believe that it's going to be his time and his year. I really believe it's going to be the Bucks that's going to hoist the Larry Brown Trophy. I really do.
That's again, I've had a couple people as well talk about the Bucks in such glowing fashion, and you're right. Giannis Antetokounmpo is simply right now, one of the best we have seen in a long time, and the unique skills that he has, and he hasn't really developed a touch yet from the outside and from the free throw line. And once he does that, there's, like you've said earlier in the show, there's no limits. The sky is the limit for him and what he can do. Those are some outstanding picks that you have, some great insight. And I'll tell you what, I cannot thank you enough for joining me today. We're signaling the ref for a quick timeout, but we'll be back with more of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Hey, Lakers fans! Looking for the best place to go for up-to-date news, information, original videos, articles, podcasts, opinion pieces, and discussions about the Los Angeles Lakers? Well, look no further than Lakerholics.com. With a legion of followers always there talking about everything Lakers and the NBA, there's no better place to go to share your fandom as the team heads toward another championship run. So stop by and be part of the conversation today at Lakerholics.com. But before we head on out, my friend, I want to ask you this. You can go ahead and share to the people everything that you've got on the plate that people need to check out, not just Cole Sportz, which I'm going to show again to people right now, right there, available on all podcast formats, but everything that you're up to, because I know you, from what I've seen, I looked on your social media and got a chance to check out all the stuff that you're doing. You've got your hands in a whole lot of places. You're a very busy man indeed.
Yeah, I am. Well, if you want to catch me on different platforms, I definitely coach divorcees and people who are heartbroken and they have a difficulty trying to get past things. My platform is called Get Over Divorce. You can find that on Spreaker. And, of course, you can find it on Apple Podcasts, too. And you can also find that on getoverdivorce.org. I do interviews, like I will one day invite this wonderful gentleman next to me to be on it. It's a general interview platform called Revelations. And that is on shows.acast.com/Revelations and also on Apple as well. And, of course, there is the mothership that started it all, Cole Sportz with a Z. And you can find that at colesportswithaz.com. And you can find that everywhere.
Absolutely. I'd be honored to be a part of any one of your programs. Well, actually, not the divorcee programs, because I've been through one a long time ago. I'd like to keep this one. I'd like to keep this one. I want to keep it to 2. I'll just keep it to 2 like that. I'm praying that every day that I can keep it to 2 and that I won't do something stupid to go ahead and necessitate being on your show. Because if I'm going to go on your show, then you know something's gone real downhill with it. I'll just say that. But any one of your other programs right now, I'd be honored to be a part of them if you should decide to go ahead and bring me on. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to bring you back on. It's going to have a great time indeed, again, when we talk more about the NBA as it gets more into the bubble, as it gets more into the playoffs. You brought some great insight into this show today, and I cannot thank you enough for doing so. Once again, it's Cole Johnson. You got to check out all of his shows today on any podcast format. I mean, just so much out there for him that he's doing. Again, if you ever get the chance to see him on social media, he's always working on something. So you got to go ahead and check out everything indeed. And it all starts, like you said, with the mothership, Cole Sportz with a Z at colesportz.com.
Yes, sir.
Well, Cole, I want to thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast. Again, I'm going to bring you on very soon to talk about all the great things that are going on in the NBA. Hopefully, it'll be nothing but good things that we're going to be talking about when I bring you back on. I'm keeping my prayers that this bubble will stay intact. Hopefully, nobody else will have that great desire to go ahead and get lemon pepper chicken wings somewhere out there. I won't say where. Lou will.
Come on, man. Come on. Yeah. Well, thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to the invite again. Absolutely. I do look forward to doing this again.
Definitely going to have you aboard. And I just cannot thank you enough for being part of the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.